And talk on my show today, and I felt so moved this week at a visit I had with my kids that I decided against it. For those of you that have seen my poster for this morning, my advertisement, there's this really adorable picture of these two little colored girls on it, and they are having a dispute about something. And honestly, I probably can't even remember what now. But those two little adorable girls are mine, and they're my oldest two girls, Ada and Michaela. And this week on Tuesday at a visit, we're driving on the sidewalk, and we're playing with these colored chalks and whatever, and the girls are having this argument, and I'm watching them because I do that often, like when I want to get an idea about maybe a show or something, or if I should, want to feel inspired, if I want to just get a general idea of how life should be before we get all these extra opinions and we pick them up and we wear them and whatever. I watch my kids quite frequently for stuff like that. And Michaela and Ada, at this point, they're having this argument about cookies, I think. And I'm kind of laughing because I'm realizing that my one daughter, who's very emotional, is talking. And my other daughter, who is my mini-me, she's clearly not listening. And she has no idea what's going on. And they're fighting with each other. And the more Michaela's not listening, the more Ada's getting upset. And pretty soon, Ada's starting to cry. And then Michaela's frustrated because Ada's crying and she doesn't know why. And so I sat down, and it occurred to me that the listening was the big problem, because Michaela, who gets so excited in her head, she thinks about 10 different things all at the same time, and even though maybe she's understanding what Ada's saying back here in her mind, she's not thinking about it up here. And I sat down at this point, with my girls, and I said, okay, well, this is what's happening, and this is how she's feeling. And all of a sudden, my daughter, Michaela, who's 7, she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that." And it totally diffused the whole situation. Now, that being said, that was some great communication skills for us to be able to sit down and talk about that. But on top of that, that was some amazing comprehension skills for my daughter. And I realized that communication is not just a one-key gate. That is not the end-all, be-all for every relationship, whether it be family, friend, romantic. You can't just communicate and be done, because you could communicate until you're blue in the face, and if that person isn't ready to hear that message, or if they're not understanding it, if they're not taking themselves out of their shoes and putting themselves into your shoes, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand. And you could plant that seed a million times over, but it ain't getting water. So I sat down with, my book. I write, so I have pen and paper, like, people used to do before phones. And I'm writing in my book some comprehension skills, whatever, and I'm realizing the more that I'm writing it down, how much I've actually used comprehension throughout the period of my recovery. And that was probably one of the big things I was missing, is it wasn't just the communication, it was the comprehension. It was the understanding where people were coming from. Because people would say things and I would be like, yeah, but. And every time somebody would explain something to me, I was like, yeah, but. And I wasn't listening. I wasn't comprehending. I didn't care what they had to say. I didn't care if they were trying to give me life lessons on how to tie my shoes or how to make $1 million. I didn't care, because it wasn't my opinion, so why should I care? I don't care what you have to say, because now listen to what I have to say first. And a big part of my recovery, and a big part of where I am today, and everything is based off of my comprehension skills that I didn't even realize I had now. And it's helped me to get through a lot of life things that I probably wouldn't have before. One of the major things that it's really helped me with was the the lady that my children are in care with. When I had my last babies here, my last two, they got taken right out of the hospital. And I was not in a good place in my life, but I didn't care because, it wasn't my opinion, so it didn't matter. But I wasn't in a good place in my life. And instantly, when they were taken from me, I was angry and I was screaming and swearing, yelling, throwing a fit, like people do. And I had this major meltdown, at which point I called, my go-to recovery guy, my grandfather. I call him any time of the day. He's got a million big book quotes for me. And honestly, I could probably just pick up a big book, but it's so much easier to not have to go through the book and to just be able to call my grandpa and get the information right there. But I called him and he said, but you know what? Why are you upset about this? And I said, some woman, I don't know, has my children at her house right now. Some woman I do not know is holding my babies, and I have never met her before in my life. And he said, yeah, but she doesn't know where you're at in life, and she doesn't know if you're in a good place or a bad place. She doesn't know if she is taking them off of a miscommunication, or if she's taking them because, you tried to kill them or something. And all that she knows is that there are two babies and they need love. And that these babies need to be together and they need the connection of, a human. Not being in the hospital, not being in, in an incubator because we spent a lot of time in an ICU. She just knows that these two babies need love, and she has given her time and her energy to love these babies. So gratitude will change your attitude, and try and see it from her viewpoint. And that was a difficult pill for me to swallow. But I did, and I sat down and I really got to know this person. And the more I got to know her, the more I got to know that she's fabulous. She's fabulous. She has the biggest heart, and she is always smiling, and she is so compassionate and loving, and she might have not maybe known me before, and she didn't have to get to know me. She really didn't have to. Most normal foster bio parents, they don't get to know each other. There's rules involved with that, and you're not supposed to have each other's phone number. We text each other all day. You're not supposed to have communications with them unless CFS is in the middle and dictating what's said, what's heard, whatever. And she didn't have to take that time to get to know me, and she could have very well taken the same route I initially started with and just gotten angry and been like, well, no, this person, I have their kids, so they must be a terrible person, and I don't even want to talk to them, I don't want to hear from them, which most people do in my life. I get a lot of that. I especially get a lot of that from my family. But this woman who did not know me, who didn't have to get to know me, who I didn't have to get to know, she sat down with me, and over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years almost, we've become really good friends. And when we text each other, we'll text each other, we're like, hey co-mom, what's up? And I don't think that I've ever left a conversation with her where I was angry or upset or frustrated or concerned about any of her behaviors or concerned about anything she had said, because we both have arrived on the same level of communication and comprehension. And we'll sit down and we talk about things, and if she's not understanding something, she'll say to me, oh, well, but why is da-da-da-da? And it's the same on my end. And through building these comprehension skills and these communication skills and working things out, you know, on a normal, sane, healthy, you know, not yelling, not accusing kind of level, I have come to recognize her and her children and her husband as family more than anything. If ever it came down to it and I could not have my children back, I 100% I would be okay with them being with her. I know that she would take amazing care of them because she loves them just like her own, and she didn't have to. She loves me like family, and she didn't have to. She didn't know anything about me. For all she knew, I could have been, you know, serial killer or something, and she didn't have to get to know me, but she did. And these people have become my family. They've become my recovery. They've become, you know, everything that I wanted and needed in this world through comprehension skills. Because I took 2 seconds to go, okay, well, maybe, yeah, from my point of view, this is really hurtful right now, and I'm struggling with this, but let's see things from her point of view. Sitting there and explaining to my girls this week why they were fighting and seeing them work that out on that level and to be able to get through that and not having that one little argument ruin our entire visit like it would have in the past was absolutely rewarding. It was an amazing feeling, and it came, you know, it came at a really good time. I've not really celebrated my birthday in the past, but to everybody who has absolutely blown up my page today, thank you for the birthday wishes. You guys made me feel just truly loved today. If you went on my old Facebook, you can look back 2 years ago, I had 6 birthday wishes. And already this morning, I've had 60 plus, and it still was a little overwhelming at first. My phone was going off like crazy. I had to turn the ringer off. But you guys, you made me feel really loved. And on top of that, now I have this great relationship with my foster mom, who I honestly, I could not ask for a better friend. I could not ask for a better best friend. And she threw this party for me this week. And we had this, like, PJ movie party with my kids. And I'm not doing cake right now, so we had popcorn. But her and her kids went to Colonel's, and they got like all these different flavors of popcorn. And they bought me a gift, and they went to Pandora and got a charm for each one of my kids to put on this bracelet for me. And it was seriously the most thoughtful gift anybody's ever given me. And sitting there, opening up this gift with my kids, watching this movie, eating this popcorn, that to me felt more like home than anything ever has in my life. And, you know, they say that home isn't 4 walls and a roof. It's 2 arms and a heart that's gonna love you back. And in my case, I got way more than 2 arms loving me back. Between the 2 of us, I mean, we have quite a few kids. We have our own soccer team. I have 6 of my own. She has several of her own. And she does not hesitate to love any one of them. And the family dynamics might be a little weird, but it's family. And it is the best feeling to have something that you look forward to that much, to have something that means that much to you, that, you know, makes you want to stay sober. It kills those cravings. I don't look at my life now and I'm like, oh, I hate this so much. I just, you know, let's go get a beer. I look at my life now, and if I'm struggling with something, the first thing I do is I pick up my phone and I text my foster mom, because I just don't know how to deal with things sometimes. And I know I can get the answers from her, or I can vent and feel better. And that, just finding that through my comprehension skills, and I didn't even realize I had comprehension skills like that until I was talking to my girls, and being able to sit down and make a list with myself of
of things I've comprehended myself through, and the results of that has absolutely been amazing. I firmly believe that communication is a huge part of everything. Comprehension is just as big of a part of that, and learning to comprehend and being able to accept it within yourself, that this is what it is, this is what it is, this is how it is, that is just as big of a part. It plays an equal role. For those who have never read the Serenity Prayer, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Accepting was a huge part of that I couldn't get past. And I struggle with that still a little bit sometimes, and I'll say, like, I know why something's happening, and still sometimes in my heart I'm like, I can't, as a person, I can't get past that. But knowing is a big part of that. Even knowing and being able to just, shut your mouth and keep your opinion to yourself sometimes is a good part of comprehension. Like, even if you don't accept what that person's saying, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to throw it back in their face and say, no, this is why you're wrong. Comprehend, understand, and know what they're trying to say. Because even if you understand it and know it, you don't always have to accept it. You don't have to like it. But you don't have to argue about it then. And you don't have to be upset and frustrated and ticked off. I've practiced in the last 4 months, when people aren't comprehending something I'm saying or having a disagreement, I'll say, thank you for keeping me accountable. And that diffuses an entire situation right there, because I'm comprehending what they're saying. I know what they're saying. I know what they've said. Even if I don't agree with them, they're still holding me accountable. They've still made me check in with myself and see where I stand on that situation and how I feel about it. And by comprehending and understanding where they're coming from, whether or not you agree with them, you can still say, thank you for keeping me accountable. There, situation's diffused, done. You don't have to fight and argue about it anymore. Comprehension has led me to some great places with some great people. I sit down and I look at things I used to do, and I'm like, I did all of this horrible stuff to this nice person, and they're still here. And knowing that, and knowing what they've gone through now, and seeing it from their side and their point of view, now I can take responsibility for my actions. Now I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. And I've made a lot of apologies. And I just made one last night to a really good friend of mine that I maybe don't see all the time. But regardless of where life has taken us, that person has never stopped being there for me. Anytime I've ever wanted to talk, chatted, or whatever, they've always been there to respond and to talk to me back. And I even sat down last night and I said to this person, like, thank you for being my friend. Not just as I am now, but as I was then, because I could not have been an easy person to care about. And I can't imagine the stress that put on my friends. And I appreciate you sticking by my side through all of that. And that just came from comprehension. And even just through that one conversation, it's led to so many more, even this morning also. And we've spent a good portion of the morning talking to each other and rebuilding that friendship. And that was, again, it was on a level of comprehension. I had to comprehend what I had put this person through. I had to understand it, and then I could accept it and apologize for it, move on from it. A big part of any relationship is comprehension and communication. If you are struggling with romantic relationships and it seems like it's just one bad person after the next, stop and take a second and make sure it's not you. because I did that. And I did that for a long time. And I had 5 or 6 guys in a row, and I was angry, and I was so angry because of how these people were acting. I had 0 comprehension skills whatsoever. And I have children with 3 of them. And I got to sit down with myself and go through my levels of comprehension and put myself in their shoes and say, okay, but what could have led to these behaviors? What could have led to these actions? I had a conversation with my husband about 6 months ago, and he's been deported to Nigeria. He's been there for quite a while. We haven't seen each other in 18 months, but I had a conversation with him about 6 months ago where he said, I don't believe in love. And I said, you know what? I've heard you say that before, and I've never thought to ask why. Well, being from Nigeria, obviously, you know, they still are a little behind on the times. And my husband, bless his heart, said, I didn't have love growing up. And I said, well, that can't be right. I said, did you have a roof over your head and food on your table? And he said, yeah, but my mom never told me she loved me. And I stopped and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? You come from a culture of arranged marriages. And being from a culture of arranged marriages, love isn't as romanticized for them as it is for us. And a lot of them, you know, even though that feeling is there, that emotion is there, they don't know what it is, right? They're not taught about it. They don't say this is love and this is, you know, this feeling that you're feeling right now, do you feel it? Yeah, okay, that's love. They don't have those conversations. It's when you get married, it's because it is mutually beneficial for both parties, and that's it. You know, like, here, have a cow. And I said to him, like, you had a roof over your head for them too, right? Yeah. Okay, well, that was love. He says, yeah, but my mom didn't tell me she loved me. I said, coming from that kind of cultural background and coming from a place of arranged marriages and coming from a place of having that there and not knowing what it is, I would imagine that would drive somebody crazy. If you always had that right there and in your face and you had no idea what it was, that would drive you insane after a little while. And you're lucky enough that you have all of these fabulous people around you to explain it to you. You know, like, we can sit down with you and we can say, hey man, you know, like, what you're going through right now, that's what this is. Your mom didn't have that. Your dad didn't have that. I could imagine for them, that had to have been really difficult. And after a while, it probably would have drove them a little crazy. And he was like, wow, you actually made me feel bad for my mom a little. And I said, well, don't feel bad for her. I said, just understand where she's coming from and work with yourself to fix that. And through understanding that, then I realized in the 8 years that I've known this person, that did not cross my mind once. Didn't think about it once. We fought bad. We fought hard. And we got physical with each other to the point of, like, when the police finally pulled us apart, we had knives at each other's throats and we were trying to kill each other. We were done. And I did not think that this was a person I would ever talk to again. I did not think this was a person I would ever see again. I did not think that this was a person that I'd ever have another open and honest discussion with. And I've just signed his immigration paperwork to come back. We have amazing communication skills now. And I sat down that day, and it was one of the first conversations we had had since he'd been deported. But I sat down with him that day, and I was like, I'm really sorry that it didn't occur to me sooner that might be an issue you were facing, that might be something you might be struggling with. I didn't try to understand where he was coming from. I just got offended and butthurt when he said he didn't believe in love, because I built my life on that. And having built that great appreciation for love and for friendships and family and connections and whatever. Hearing that come out of his mouth, I was furious when he said it, and that actually led us to a physical fight. And it was extremely toxic, probably mostly for a lack of comprehension. Neither one of us cared where the other person was coming from. Neither one of us wanted to get to know the other person. We had babies. We got married. It was mutually beneficial for both parties. It wasn't the greatest wedding. It was a shotgun wedding, and if we ever did do it over again, like, it would have been on a whole nother level, because now this is a person that I'm getting to know all over again. And he even said to me the other day, he says, "You're different." I said, "You're different." He said, "Yeah, I know, I'm practicing your program." And I was so proud of him for that. Like, I haven't published it yet, but it's on my page, the Power of Positivity Recovery Edition. And he says, "I'm practicing your steps." And I was smiling, and I was so proud of him. But then I realized he's right. I'm a different person, and so is he. And it's like, those two people that the police pulled apart from each other will never see each other again. They're never going to have the rest of that argument. They're never going to finish that fight. When the police pulled those two people away from each other that day, that was it. That relationship is over. But I have this whole brand new person I'm getting to know all over again. And he's my best friend now, because we understand each other now. We talk about things, and we don't just talk about things. We're not just communicating, hearing each other. We're listening. We are understanding where the other person's coming from. And we are making a point of saying, "Hey, this is what I need, and how can I get it?" And through doing so with everybody in my life, things have changed immensely. And it was a large part of that, now I see, was based on comprehension skills and the ability to take myself out of my own shoes and say, "Hey, like, I see where you're at today. I see where you're coming from. Maybe I don't agree with it, but I understand. And I'll politely disagree, and we'll walk away from that." When you comprehend with somebody, you diffuse an entire situation. When you comprehend with somebody, you grow closer. Because honestly, the people I have in my life now, no argument is worth losing a single one of those people. And I know that now, because isolation is the biggest part of my problem, was isolation. And having no friends, and having no family, and having nobody there for me was the biggest reason I wanted to do drugs, because I was so lonely and bored. And having those comprehension and communication skills now, I have people in my life who love me, who throw me popcorn parties and go Pandora for me. And, sit and have conversations with me at 2 a.m. because I'm freaking out over dumb things. Probably dumb things, but I have those people now, and no argument is worth losing a single one of those people. And I can now sit down, I can ask myself, if I allow this person to, feel the way they're feeling, is somebody going to get hurt? No. Are somebody's basic human rights going to be violated? No. Okay. Now, if I'm right in this argument, is it worth losing whatever that person brings to the table for me? No. Well, if all three of your answers were no, then move on. Move on from it. Work past it. Comprehend where they're coming from. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. Just comprehend it. Understand it. Look at where they're coming from. And even if you're struggling to accept it, which I do sometimes, understand where they're coming from. Because through that understanding and that comprehension, you can look at that person and you can say, I see you as a person, and I'm not ready to lose you as a person. I have a phenomenal relationship with my foster mom, and I could not be more grateful for the family that I do have with her. I've never personally felt like I fit into my own family very well. That being said, family isn't always blood, blood isn't always family. And to have her there by my side through all of this, and to have her help me work through the things that I need to get through to be there with my kids, and to have her sit with me and say, I see you as a person, I see where you're coming from, I get it. That was worth every level of comprehension and communication, and it was worth dropping any, I guess, resentments I had at the start of this, because I had a lot of resentments at the start of all this, and I was a very, very angry mama bear, and it was very much worth dropping all of those resentments, all those arguments, to just let go and have an actual family. I did lose my family to actually gain a family, which is ironic, but I had to. I had to lose my husband, I had to lose my kids, I had to lose all of that to actually have a family, because I didn't know how to. I had a family that I didn't choose necessarily, and I don't have a great relationship with them, but they had to be part of my life. And I had a family that I did choose, and that chose me back, and accepted me, and loved me, and comprehended what I was going through. And it was absolutely one of the biggest factors in my recovery. It was one of the biggest things that got me sober, and it's one of the biggest things still keeping me sober today. I know you're sitting there watching this. I love you, and I'm so glad my kids are with you. And I couldn't ask for a better family. I think that if everybody had as good of a family as I have with you guys, there would be a whole lot more sober people in this world, because it was definitely worth getting and staying sober for. If you're out there today and you are struggling to accept somebody, you are struggling to accept what they're saying, take a second, stop and breathe. If you are constantly facing drama and chaos and trauma after trauma in your life, stop and check in with yourself and make sure it's not you. And if it is you, take a second to comprehend where you're coming from. Take a second to sit down and look at your own situation. And don't forget to love yourself. Regardless, forgive yourself for whatever it is you're fighting with yourself over. Understand where you're coming from. Take the lesson from that and move on from it, because it is not worth hanging on to. I hope everybody has a beautiful weekend, and I will see you guys all next week.